Seems like everyone is laughing at Concord, Firewalk Studios, and Sony's biggest failure up to date, losing the company over $400 million and investing in a game that has no appeal to the gamers. The game didn't even reach over 800 players in its 2 weeks of being live. And I'll say that again, for only being live for 2 weeks and being pulled from all services. And that is the situation for Concord, one of the biggest failures in the industry. And now you have Eastern developers that are more steeped in making conscious oriented games that are attractive to the wide mass appeal of game players across the world, making fun of Concord with designs and costume choices. This is just a crazy factor that I didn't see happening for at least Concord, which was a massive failure for Sony. Losing the company over $400 million was deemed the future of PlayStation. And when you look at the game itself, it had all the unattractive traits that you would expect from a modern day westernized game. And this is a situation we see all throughout the Western video games industry, where everything is focused on the actual attributes and political association of the characters rather than making a good game. And that's what we see things pop up related to pronouns, racial, gender stereotypes, and overall body positivity elements, where the gaming is the last thing game developers are focused on. And Concord was the prime example of this, where we had one of the worst character designs ever for game players to actually look at. And I think that is a thing in the defining moment of Concord, where you get these wild assortment of ugly characters that are just made based on political activist messaging that is steeped all throughout the video gaming industry, specifically Sony, where it's all about the racial, gender stereotypes that you want to impose and focus on to message to the gamers themselves. And that messaging was a complete failure because gamers didn't care about playing 95-year-old Asian grandma or someone that is gender neutral and has pronouns. No one cares about that. They want beautiful designs, attractive players, attractive characters, and good gameplay. This game had neither of those, and this is reflected back on how the Eastern games development sphere is mocking Concord for having those ugly designs. One particular design that popped out for one of the characters that was a sniper is this frog suit that people mocked and said, who would want to purchase this character costume design, which is something you were supposed to purchase at their store? Who would buy such an ugly costume for the character? And I think that is a situation we see consistently throughout the video gaming industry, at least the Western video game industry, where they're making things that no one actually wants to play or purchase, especially when you're making a shooter game where you're supposed to purchase these different custom costumes and everything else. That's the source of income for the company, and they're making absolutely ugly and unattractive designs that no one would want to purchase with some of their free cash they have around. So this is a situation where you're just making things that are completely unmarketable for your own political activist ideals. And of course, this covers those activist ideals by completely covering all feminine curves and other attributes that may be deemed attractive to the male gaze. And of course, the First Descendant comes out, a game that is being developed by Nexon, a Korean company, comes out with their own version of this frog suit. And this is the Volby frog suit, where you see the contrast in designs and overall skill that is being applied here, where people would definitely buy this suit because it accentuates the properties that a lot of game players like seeing in attractive characters, where it accentuates their feminine curves. And if you had the male character, you would see it accentuate the male muscles and physique. That is just how games are made, to appeal to the peak physical forms of either gender. But that is the opposite of what we're seeing in games like Concord, where it's appealing to the lower or unideal figure and overall match that people just don't want to see in gaming because they live that life. They're already an obese cafeteria lady. They're already an 85-year-old grandma. Why would I want to play a game as an 85-year-old grandma if I'm already an 85-year-old grandma? And that's just the situation that we're seeing play out in the industry. And that would be cool if there's an 85-year-old grandma playing a game. I doubt she wants to be an 85-year-old grandma in a video game. She probably wants to be Volby in First Descendant. And this is just the idiot logic that we see invading the space of gaming, where these people don't understand. People are playing games as a fantasy and escape. They're trying to see things that they're unable to see in real life, and that is the point of gaming. This is lost on the new game developers that are out nowadays, where they don't know how to make something that is appealing to the gamer, so they make something that is representative of their calming ideals within society itself. And Nexon, the First Descendant developer, they're just making pretty girls dance with small short skirts, and that is selling them hundreds of thousands of copies and consistently having a player base over 25 to 40,000 people playing daily, which is a consistent good number if you want to sustain a game. And I think that's the situation that we're seeing all throughout the Eastern games development sphere, where Korea, China, Japan are taking advantage of this moment where the Western games development space has lost the plot and refuses to make beautiful designs and associate that with good gameplay. And that broken connection between the two elements is leading the video gaming development sphere, at least in the West, down the drain, where multiple companies are laying off employees, laying off developers, laying off their staff because they're just not making games that are appealing to the market. And they can't use the excuse that the market is down, because we just saw Black Myth Wukong sell over 20 million copies within a month. We just saw First Descendant stack up a lot of money in player base within a few months. We just saw Space Marine 2 make so much money within a few months. There's still money out there if you're making good games. It's only if you make bad games where you can't make money. And this is where the Eastern developers are taking the advantage right now, where they're making games that people actually want to play with beautiful characters that people actually want to look at and see do amazing things. And this is playing out in a way that the Western games development sphere is unaware of and unwilling to change to adapt to the new standards. So it's funny to see Korean developers mock Concord because they know what's wrong with Concord immediately. And this is something a lot of developers within the Western space refuse to accept as the problem with Concord. A lot of reviewers as well, where you have multiple journalists, high-level journalists for Forbes, wondering what's going on. This is weird. Why are the player counts so little for Concord? Why is this happening? There must be some glitch in the system. It's impossible. This game is not popular, and they're just wondering how is this happening to such a big and highly invested game. And they're trying to continually support this game even as it fails and is being taken off servers, saying it's just saying that there's just too much games like it, when in actuality there aren't too much games like it. There're just too much good games that are better than this game that are out right now. And that is a result of people trying to avoid the actual problem with modern day gaming. And of course, it takes Korea to shove it back in their face with an actual proper design of one of their characters. And I think this is the central thing that we've been seeing around Concord, where people have been remaking the characters into a beautiful design that would actually appeal to the gamers, because the gameplay for Concord wasn't the best, but if you had beautiful characters in it, it would attract more people to actually play. And that is the fault that we're seeing spread out within the Korean industry, where people are pointing this out and laughing at America and Sony and all the companies that refuse to see this as a fault of the game. But that's just my perspective on the situation. I love what's happening with the Korean, Chinese, and Japanese development sphere. They're making great games at great quantity, and I'm hoping that continues on and they avoid the fate of the Western gaming development sphere, which is refusing to respect the gamers and their love for actual beautiful designs and good gameplay. But tell me what you think about the situation. What are your thoughts on Korea and the world laughing at Concord? I think it's a crazy sight to see, but it is interesting to see it nonetheless. But you leave a comment, like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.